Judy Girard worked in television for more than 30 years. She programmed many TV stations, worked for NBC Network, and was president of HGTV. As president of the Food Network, she is credited with taking a fledgling channel and building it into a $3 billion asset for the Scripps Company. Judy moved to Wilmington in 2008, and in 2009, she was awarded a Lifetime Achievement Emmy for her influence on TV programming. Please welcome Judy Girard.
Good morning. Sean just brought back some memories for me. I was working at NBC when GE bought it, and we were launching the Jerry Springer Show. And Jack Welch came in, I'll never forget this, Jack Welch came in the studio, it was the first time we were ever meeting them all, and he tried to take that corporate culture and impose it on this crazy network and that crazy television business. He spent 10 minutes in the studio, we never saw him again. We never saw him or any of the people from Connecticut again. So its cultures are everything. It's great to be with you all. Thank you, Rob, so very much for asking me. I'm going to talk, my topic, if I get it right here, is where we're at in women's leadership. As Rob mentioned, I worked in television for many years. And I started in the business at the point that Gloria Steinem and her group of people were launching the women's movement and talking about glass ceilings and quotas and all of that they did for many years. And so I've been watching numbers like this for 40 years, which is where women are in the leadership in businesses in this country. These are the 10 sectors of business in the country. And when I started, and I'm talking about now probably the early 70s, around the early 70s, and people started tracking the numbers of women in leadership. And by the way, these are not top jobs. These are the first 4 or 5 levels of management jobs in these 10 sectors. When I started, it was about 12% of the positions were held by women. Today it's 18% and it's going down. And of course the highest number is in the academic world and in journalism. Lowest number is in military, but it's pretty much stable in some of these sectors and going down in most. What has changed enormously in my lifetime, and I look back and I get discouraged by these numbers, by the way. I really, really get discouraged and go, oh, everything that was done and businesses, supporting women and training women and the majority of college graduates now are women, which was not at all the case when I started. Why are these numbers not better? But what has changed enormously is the public comfort level with women as leaders. It is extremely high. 80–90% of the country now are comfortable with women leaders. Men don't cringe when they see a woman boss. The people at General Motors are not cringing today because she was appointed last week. They're not cringing at all. They like women bosses most of the time. It's a different style. And I know I'm generalizing here, but people are no longer afraid of them. So let me divert for a minute, and then I'm going to come back and talk about this. When I was in the Food Network for maybe 10 minutes, sitting in the president's chair, when Emerald came in, and he and 10 or 12 other chefs were doing straight cooking shows. And he said to me, "What's your plan for fixing this network?" And I said, "I don't have one." And he said, "Well, why'd they hire you?" I said, "I don't know, I don't even cook." And he said, "Well, I need to decide whether I'm going to go open restaurants or whether I'm going to continue to waste my time here because nobody's watching this thing at all." And I said, "What?" He said, "So I'm waiting for you to tell me what you're going to do." I said, I haven't a clue." And he got up and he said, "It looks like I'm headed toward my restaurants." The next day he came back in and he said, "I was thinking, there's only one person in the whole history of television that has figured out how to do a successful cooking show. Only one." And he was right. And he said, "I think you should go talk to her. Find out what it is that she does she has been on the air for 20-some years at PBS, sold millions of cookbooks. Go find out what it is." And I thought, it's a great idea. So I flew to Boston and met with her, an incredibly gracious woman. And I said to her, "What makes your show successful?" And she said, "Oh, it's so simple." She said, I hate to tell you how simple it is. And she said, I can't believe they have never figured this out in the 10 years that the Food Network has been around. She said, it's not about the food at all. It's not about the recipes. It's not about the techniques. It's not about the food. It's about having fun with what I'm doing. It's about who I am and celebrating that. And food is just the language. That's all it is. And I came back to Emeril and I said to him, because Emeril you could tell he had a great personality trying to come out. I said, if you can develop a show that does this, 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 and this, we'll put it on 5 nights a week and we'll build the network around you. And within 2 years, he not only did that, but within 2 years, that network went from a value of about $2 million to over $3 billion. And it was because of Julia Child. And it was so simple. A few years later, they asked me to go to HGTV. Don't know why they did that, because I've never owned a house, never sold a house, there's absolutely no reason for me to have these jobs whatsoever. None. And it's in Knoxville, Tennessee. I said, really? I got to go live in Knoxville? Yeah. But I like challenges like that, and so I went. And there I would meet a woman that would totally change the way I view life and change me and have such an influence on me. And that woman is the most winning basketball coach in all of college football, male or female, Pat Summitt. And one day, she used to do guest coaches, where you could go sit behind her on the bench and you went into the locker room at halftime. And it was a real honor to be asked to do that, because her halftime speeches were legendary. Big game, Rutgers championship game, and she said to me, why don't you come be the guest coach and go in the locker room? And I was blown away by doing that. They played terrible the first half, just awful. And I'm thinking, oh man, I'm going to see the greatest halftime. She is just going to she's going to take these kids. Oh, I just can't wait to see what she's going to do. And all the kids were sitting around, and she came in, and she handed the chalk to one of the girls, and she said to him, that was awful. That was really awful. She said, and here's what we're going to do. I'm going to leave the locker room. I'm going to come back a minute before halftime, and you guys are going to figure out what you want to do in the second half. And that's what she did. And she came back, and the girls worked out their plan, and she came back. They won the game by just like 4 or 5 points. And the papers really reamed her the next day for having a relatively weak second half game plan and eking out that game. She and I were on a plane a couple of days later doing something at the Food Network, and I said to her, I can't believe you took that chance. That was just so, I was blown away by what she did. And she said, it's not about the game. It was never about the game, ever. It's about teaching those kids, those girls, self-confidence, perseverance, letting them have their voice and finding their voice. And she recruited all of her kids, all of them from Title I schools. And that day, of the 110 girls that she had coached to that date, she knew where all 110 of them were, and that they had pulled out and had a choice in life about who they were and what they did, and they had pulled out of what was otherwise going to be poverty and victimization. There's no doubt about it. And so the aha moment for me between those two women was that, oh my gosh, it's not about the numbers. It's not about how many women are in leadership. It's bigger than that. It's about choice. It's about giving every girl in this country and every girl in this city the choice to take charge of her life. The choices that we have in this room have all had automatically, knowing we were probably going to go to college. It was just assumed we were going to go to college, knowing we would find the way to economically do that, having the cultural values in our household that brought us all to these jobs and these nice clothes and these nice houses we live in, and it's great. But what about Ben's kids? that don't have that choice. It's not even in their psyche. So it was never about the food. It was about a woman with a squeaky voice and a frumpy body celebrating who she was. And everybody loved it. And it was never about the game. It was about giving those kids self-confidence and self-esteem and building a culture that would do that. So I started to dream about that in retirement the last few years, of what would it feel like to reach back and reach over that terrible cultural economic divide and give those girls a shot. How else could you do it? There's a school in New York called the Young Women's Leadership Network. There's actually 5 schools. The first one was started in Harlem 20 years ago by Ann Tisch, Hillary Clinton, and Michael Bloomberg. It's a public-private model where the school is public and there is a foundation that supports the school and runs the guidance counseling and works with the kids and goes into the homes, just as Ben just talked about with what they're doing. Goes into the homes and gets the families on board and gets the kids on board and arranges scholarships for those kids so that they go to school. And in the last 20 years, those 5 schools and the 13 affiliates around the country who have now patterned after them have sent 98% of their population to college, 4-year colleges, and those kids have graduated all the way through. It's just a phenomenal model. And and I kept thinking about it, kept getting on my radar. And you know, the universe kind of just tells you where you're supposed to be and what you would be doing. I thought, wow, this is like, I don't cook, I don't own a house, I don't know a thing about starting a school. Why would I think I could do anything like that? And then the universe put in my life the most incredible partner in this town. And I have worked with some phenomenal people in my life, but I have never worked with a leader as strong as this one. And I am so glad that Gary Miller wanted to come here as chancellor at UNCW because he brought with him an incredible gem. And I'm going to ask her to come up here, Georgia Miller. Come on. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. Come on. Come on. And while George is coming up here, I want to introduce 2 other people. We have started the Young Women Leading Inc., and I want to introduce 2 of the board members that are here today. And Bob Tyndall from the university, Dr. Tyndall from UNCW School of Education, who is designing this school for us. And Tony Gray, who's colonial marketing, public relations and marketing, who's going to help us not only get word of the school out, but certainly reach into the community that we want to reach. Georgia? Okay. George is, Rob, can I do this? It's not. Being the technical person I am too. Is it on? Is it on?
I believe so.
Okay. All right, Georgia, go ahead and make our announcement.
Oh, Judy.
Go ahead.
Well, we formed a nonprofit in July of this year, and we have filed for 501c3 status, and we will be starting a 6th through 12th grade all-female school that is going to be working with our predominantly economically disenfranchised, I guess, young women in the community, and giving them an opportunity to get an education. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Giving them an opportunity to have an education to prepare them not to be high school graduates, to be college graduates, come back to this community and enhance Wilmington and whatever community they should move into. And Judy, you were the partner. You and I had this discussion yesterday.
Yeah, I know. She said I wasn't allowed to do this.
No, but we are so fortunate to have Judy Girard.
So we're having a really good time.
Yes, we are.
We decided, Rob asked me a couple weeks to do this, and we said, you know what? Let's announce the school. We really haven't announced it yet. Ben David went to New York with us, and the mayor and some people from the school board, people have been so supportive that we have reached out to thus far. So we hope you will support us when we ask you. And we hope to do a great school that will make our community proud and give a choice to a lot of girls out there in Wilmington. So thank you very much.